Friday, a fish don't get fried until you want it.
Oh, what time y'all close?
They close.
They close.
I'm here.
But I want it at 9 o'clock, at 10 o'clock.
Jesus.
We got you. So we're supposed to be talking anyway when they come on.
Especially
So-
when it first starts.
so-
So congratulations on your grand opening.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
It's good too. You gotta come.
You doing?
Hi, good evening, and welcome to Sister to Sister Can We Talk. I'm your girl Silk, once again coming to you with my girl T, the momager.
Hey.
Tina, now the new business owner of O Taste and See restaurant that has its grand opening tomorrow on Hall Street. So drop by, free laptops. We'll talk about that later. And my bestie, the Reverend Dr. Carmichael Burton. So good evening, ladies. Thank you for being here. We do have a guest, and if she comes, we're going to take a brief pause, but if not, we're still going to cover her book because it is a phenomenal book. And so I want to pick up from, ladies, where we left off last week when we were talking about, we've been pretty much starting the show with restoring the village and the legacy being lost. And this is like 4 of the series. And what I wanted to talk about tonight is ridding ourselves of generational curses. Okay, is that okay?
That's
okay. So I want to talk about those generational curses. We started last week with the bullying and domestic situation, and we're going to dedicate that. I know last week I announced that we were going to go into domestic and sexual assault, but we really need to get prepared for that the right way before we bless people, and to put that out there, because that's a ticking time bomb. And we want to be mindful, especially after I talk to my pastor, we want to be mindful that a topic that powerful and that potent, that we have the right people here, so when our callers is calling in. So again, if the number isn't on the bottom of the screen, this is Silk, Sister to Sister Can We Talk. Give us a call at 915-5202. So y'all know I can't see nothing. Y'all know, let's keep it real. Okay, I saw better before I started wearing these glasses. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is pulling from Marcia Page's book. Okay, and Marcia is a great writer. She's the CEO and founder of Stilettos and Stacks. Okay, but one of the things that impressed upon me is her moniker of training our daughters to be CEOs and not consumers. Okay. And I thought that that was a wonderful thing. And I just jotted some notes down because it was so much to talk about. But I want to talk about the generational curse of financial enslavement. Okay? I want to talk about that. And one of the things that I shared with T earlier is I remember when we were children in school, and I don't know if they did it down here in Virginia, but I know in New York, we had savings accounts in school. And there was a bank called Manufacturers Hanover Trust that used to have a passbook. And every Friday we would bring a quarter and deposit in the bank, and we were able to track our money. Okay. And I also remember being a girl, you don't think about it now, but everybody that went to go see their nana or their papa, before they left, they always slid them $1, or they always slid them a silver coin to drop in the box. I remember that my grandmother didn't buy a whole bunch of frilly gifts. She used to buy things like savings bonds and things like that. But then we get old enough and we think, okay, we don't need a savings bond. We cash them in. Okay. And one of the things that impressed upon me was the saying, really understanding that saying of God bless the child that's got his own. Okay. And in looking at Marcia's book, when I was reading it, I just want to read a quote, and I'm going to constantly refer back to it. But one of the things she started in her introduction, she said, my childhood financial picture wasn't filled with platinum cards and a silver spoon. But when I grew older, I lived as if I had both. And I'm going to stop there because I know, and we're all guilty of it, and I call it, pardon the expression, label whores. I mean, we live in this mentality now where if it doesn't have a label on it, it's not worthy. And one of our guests, Latoya, was here a week ago, and she was saying, you know, and we had callers that called in that says, you know, I didn't have to have a man to rock the latest Jordan. We talked to the babies here that said, you know, I get picked upon in school because I don't have the designer labels, and we're not going to throw out company names, but just the designer labels, and just not clean, well-kept clothing. So I kind of wanted to talk to you all about that first, and get an idea of what you feel about living beyond our means. T?
I think people do it all the time. Maybe not even intentionally. It's more of a greed. It's more of a want than a need.
Right.
You see everybody else with it. You want it, so you do whatever it takes. I've seen people that lights have gotten cut off, but they are rocking the Jordans. They got flat screens. They live in subsidized housing somewhere with flat screens and Range Rovers, and it's a want. It's a greed.
And T, I'm going to come to you before I go to Dr. Burton, because we talked about when you were first on the show, and I'm glad you're here. I know you haven't been feeling well, but one of the things that you talked about is how in doing what you've done, you shifted your whole bloodline coming from public housing and now being a homeowner. But one of the things that I find in my daily walk of employment is that's not even a goal that a lot of our young women are looking to attain now. They've become so comfortable and complacent. Talk to me about that.
Well, me personally, I feel like I constantly challenge myself. My mom always said I had a unique mindset. She said I always wanted it all. I said I didn't want it all. I wanted the best for my kids. When my kids go, Mom, I want to be just like you, I have to correct them. I said, no, you got to be better than me, because I've worked too hard and it's still too much for you to come out just like me. Right. Too many lessons that I've learned for you to end up being just like me. Right. Take that back, because you speak in existence what exactly it is that you're working towards. Personally, pretty much a lot of the stuff that you was just talking about people making that sacrifice and prefer to feel they buy all this stuff to cover themselves with materialistic things to feel accomplished, not thinking about, I'd rather pay $50 or $25 for a pair of shoes than spend and have my kids in a decent home than to pay $100 and some for a pair of shoes and have my kids worry about dodging a bullet outside the door. Not everybody look at that concept that way. I told my children, I bought my first home. I was blessed to get it with no money down, so forth and so forth. Friends helped me, but I was blessed to get it. It was hard doing it as a single mom, with 5 children and all. But at the same time, like I told my kids, I want you all to get better. You see the struggle I went through to get my first. We was in a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, but I owned it.
Right.
That feeling of I accomplished this. When me and my first husband split up, the first thing he said to me when we split up is, everything you got is because of me. I said, okay, I got you. And I gave it all to him. Take the cars, take it all. I take the kids. Okay. So everything I got now is because of the work that I've done.
Okay. And Dr. Burton, you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, one of the things that I want to say is it's easy sometimes for us to look at the external and see the things that people have or that they possess and think that it's because of, like you said, about greed or just having to have. Sometimes underneath all of that is something else.
Right.
Sometimes people do what's called retail therapy, right, to make themselves feel better. There's a void that needs to be filled, and so they will go out and purchase something as opposed to using drugs or alcohol. It can be the same type of an addiction to buy something to make you feel good, but realizing it's only temporary. So you'll still have to go out and buy something else or buy more. You'll end up getting people that'll start hoarding things because they'll buy it and you go to their homes and they'll still have price tags on it, because it's not that they needed it for what the item is used for, but it was just needed to fill a void.
And I think one of the things that, and we dialogue about this all the time, and again, I'm not going to throw any company names, but I find it that it's really ironic that rent-to-own places, okay? Now, I remember that there was a company, I'll just say The Hut, that you were able to order online and order absolutely anything that you want and pay for it. But the reality was, after you paid for it, you had already bought 4 or 5 of them because the finance charges were so high. And I look and say that, okay, we live in a society now where we can't wait. We're in a I gotta have it right now. Okay, so instead of saving up and putting money away for that flat screen TV, we go to the rent-to-own place and pay for it, not realizing that if we miss a payment, they come in to get it and we lose everything. But not only that, we've paid for 3 or 4 of those TVs by the time that we was, finish it. I also find that, and this is the thing that has always amazed me, and I know, again, this is Silk. If you got a question, call in. And I'm not trying to offend anybody, but this is a hot topic about financial enslavement. I personally believe that subsidized housing and welfare was the worst thing that ever happened to our people. And the reason being is because the purpose of for what it was founded for spiraled out of control. And what I mean by that is first of all, I find it amazing that people live in public housing and drive Mercedes and drive Range Rovers and drive things when you could park that in your driveway at home. We rent anything now from rims to laptops to, clothes. Listen, I find it amazing that you can now take your car and pawn it, okay, for your title. Payday loans have dropped up all over the place. It's amazing. And the reason why I think that that's bad is because, okay, don't get it twisted. I'm a product of welfare. I remember my mother staying on public assistance. But the thing about my mom is she stayed on public assistance until her children were old enough to take care of themselves, knowing that at the time when her children got old enough to take care of themselves, then she was going to go and better herself. And she went back to school and did whatever she needed to do, knowing that we were home safe, we were able to maintain and take care of herself, kind of like, I done did y'all, now let me do me. But now what's happened is we've become so complacent with this subsidy and welfare that it's almost like a way of life. Okay, no one wants to get out. It's like institutionalized housing, if you would, because there's always a rule or a regulation that you have to follow to live there, but no one wants to do. And T, I'm going to come to you because you are a product of public housing and you spoke about it a great deal about that. So I'm going to talk to you about that.
Yeah, I grew up in Wickham. A lot of my bloodline grew up in Wickham. I have some family still in Wickham. I just wanted better for my kids. When I had my first child and I saw the environment and things that I went through, I was just determined that they were not going to step foot up in there. They wasn't going to live like I had to live. I'm not bashing my mom. My mom did the best that she can do with 3 kids, being a single mom. But I just wanted better for my children. I left home at age 16 with 2 kids and got married to get out the projects, being honest with you. I can't get no realer than that. Right. And I had 2 kids and I was just determined, love my husband I had, but it was more about getting my kids from that environment because I refused to let them be a statistic. And it's been an ongoing battle ever since. But past that, me and him split up. I ended up getting a Section 8 voucher. And I did the most crazy, them people at Section 8 actually thought I did the craziest thing. I looked around and saw all the women that was there at the Section 8, the Housing Authority. And I stayed on Section 8 4 months. I called them, I said, I'm giving you back my voucher because this is not for me. It's just a trap. And if I get comfortable within that trap, time just tick. You can get back money, you can get back anything else, but you can't get back time.
That's right.
At age 18, when those kids are adult, it's some things that got to happen. You got to give up that house, you got to do this, and you got to do that. And I refused to be in that predicament. I told my kids in 5 years I was going to be a homeowner. The day I gave up that voucher, I got that house within 3 years.
And that's a testimony. And I'm going to come to Dr. Burton because I remember when we talked about losing the legacy, one of the things that stuck with me and T talked about it earlier today was the fact that you said in your home, everybody lived, but when they left, they were trained to go into their own home. Mm-hmm. Nobody left their home to move into an apartment or a room. So that shows that home ownership, property value was something that was instilled in you as young as a child. And knowing that you didn't have to be a private success, but a public failure, as Marcia says in her book. Yeah. So talk about that.
Well, the truth of the matter for us, our family came from Alabama. And when my grandfather and his cousin were in the war together, they were just sending their checks home to my great-grandmother, my big mama. And they did not probably realize until they came home from the war that they were homeowners. Because what she did with their money was she saved it and then bought property and then built houses on that property. So even in Alabama currently, there are houses across the street from each other in a little cul-de-sac, and then the middle section is empty. There's nothing built on it. We just understood the value of owning property. So that's still within our family now. And my grandfather and his cousin have both passed on. But my grandmother even owned property in Shenandoah Valley because it's the property, the land that matters. And